This episode has everything. A surprise fertility clinic, a surprise brownstone, a surprise move to Austin, and a surprise pregnancy. It's like the writers spilled a season outline on the floor and said, let's just use all of it.
So you two have been planning this behind my back?
Oh no, Danny. You only talk ethnic when you're really furious.
Now, the Mindy Project has always thrived on romantic chaos. Big gestures, big fights, big feelings. But this episode doesn't just introduce conflict, it drop kicks it through the door. Mindy suddenly has a dream fertility clinic opportunity. Danny suddenly buys a brownstone without asking her. Peter suddenly decides to move to Texas. And somewhere in the middle of that, we're supposed to believe this is all organic. The frustrating part? The emotional beats actually work. The conversations between Mindy and Danny are solid. Peter's goodbye hits. The jokes are sharp again. It just feels like we fast forwarded through half a season to get there. And so with that in mind, welcome back to The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking the 14th episode of the third season of the Mindy Project, titled No More Mr. Noishe Guy, written by Jeremy Bronson and directed by Michael Weaver. All right, let's find out how this one stacks up, starting with the episode overview. Well, we're 3 months into the San Francisco experiment with this show, and not to give anything away, but the fact that Mindy's back in New York in the office for most of this episode seems to make things better. But the point of the opening of this episode is to establish that Danny, who in previous episodes has talked about how Mindy should explore San Francisco, actually hates San Francisco. He even has a bit where he's making fun of Alcatraz, the place that 2 episodes ago, right before he got his foot job, he was suggesting that Mindy visit. In addition to that, suddenly Danny wants to wear a bike helmet everywhere he goes in San Francisco, just in case an earthquake happens. Now, I lived in Monterey, California for only about a year, and I experienced one earthquake, which I say experienced, but really I didn't even feel it. People around me told me, "Did you feel that? It was an earthquake." I didn't even know it happened. And I'm not saying that fearing earthquakes is irrational, but if they were gonna have him fear it, why not show him having feared it in any of the previous episodes when he was in San Francisco? Well, Mindy is determined to get Danny to like it there. She takes him on all the touristy stuff like Lombard Street and the Redwoods and the trolley. She calls the Golden Gate Bridge the Big Red Bridge, which I admittedly enjoyed. And all the touristy stuff seemed to work. By the end of the montage, she's saying he really likes it there. But unfortunately, an earthquake starts right as they start making out. So he's gonna grab his helmet and start yelling and hide under the desk. He's yelling about Charlton Heston saying they should get to high ground, which I'm sure it's a reference to something. You can tell me in the comments what it is. But when it's done, he gets out from under the desk and tries to go back to making out, but Mindy is dehornified, I guess you could say, like a splash of cold water, and she's just like, nah, I'm gonna go take a shower. But Mindy has really come to enjoy her time in Palo Alto. And Rob Gurgler, Dr. Gurgler here, he's gonna make it harder to leave. Apparently Mindy's done great work while she's at Stanford, like she's a standout. And Gurgler wants to start a fertility clinic with her. Of course, her first reservation is Danny, but Gurgler's like, no, include him, it should be a 3-way partnership. Now she likes the idea, and even though I know it just is not gonna happen, I still can't help but wonder why she would even consider to partner with this guy. The point is, though, the show has decided that the relationship between Mindy and Danny has become a bit stale, so they've got to introduce some friction. So here comes some manufactured strife. And on top of that, she needs to give an answer about the place that Gurgler thinks is the perfect spot for the fertility clinic in 72 hours. Because otherwise the city is going to take it over and make it a methadone clinic for stray dogs. So not only manufactured strife, but an arbitrary time constraint. So Mindy's going to go home to New York, not just to visit Danny and everybody else, but to convince Danny to move to San Francisco and start a fertility practice with her and Gurgler. But before we dive any further into her A story, we've got the love triangle B story to contend with. Amazingly, right after they really got it going again last episode, we're going to conclude it this episode. Jeremy is lamenting in his first scene that Lauren has broken up with him and is moving to Austin, Texas. He says that she said she broke up with him because things were getting too complicated. Of course, Morgan is going to take a knowing glance over at Peter and basically accuse him of being the catalyst for this breakup. And after Jeremy leaves, Morgan's going to question him. Have they done anything besides the kiss? Topless hugging? Bottomless dancing? Naturally, Peter is like, hey, I can't be with her either if she's moving to Texas, so it doesn't benefit me either. But we're gonna move from here to Danny picking up Mindy from the airport, we got them in the car ride back. He's driving through Harlem, which Mindy wasn't expecting, but he's got more surprises in store. He's gonna show her a brownstone that he bought for them, that they're gonna be able to put down roots. It sort of reminded me of the storyline in The Office when Jim buys a house without telling Pam. So I'm just gonna say it. Don't buy a house without consulting your significant other, especially if you're planning on having them share this house with you. And I say this from experience, because I actually did make this mistake as well. But that's a story for another time. Ray, Danny's contractor, is back as well. You see, the brownstone is in desperate need of repair, which explains Ray's presence. But what he's really there to do is to deliver a bit for the scene. He's telling them that they should leave because human nighttime is rat daytime. And it keeps building with him presenting it as if this house is some kind of rat kingdom. And of course, they do end up running out when there's a few rats at the top of the stairs. So the next day, Mindy comes into the office expecting this hearty welcome. And Jeremy's gonna run out of the office thinking it might be Lauren, but is just disappointed that it's only Mindy. Tamara's gonna say, "You left?" And Beverly's gonna be like, "Of course she left. She was picking up her Nobel Peace Prize. Your head healed up real good." Now, Mindy's gonna look around confused, I assume mirroring the audience as well, because I was confused too. But she looks over at Danny and he says she thinks you're Malala. So Mindy's gonna head over to her office only to find Morgan in mid-workout on a treadmill that's in her office. Morgan, not skipping a beat, is like, "I got 20 minutes left. There's a sign-up sheet outside Dr. C's office." And then of course when she closes the door, we hear him falling, which is, silly. But clearly she hasn't been missed as she would have hoped. But then in the next scene, she's getting her annual doctor visits done all at once before she goes back to California. And Morgan is being the nurse practitioner and Peter's being the OB. But Peter wants to talk to Mindy about Lauren, and Mindy wants to talk to Peter about the fertility clinic. So they're gonna share secrets. Of course, she has to get Morgan out of the room to tell hers, which she does by asking him to order her a gigantic breakfast sandwich right after he told her that her blood pressure is 1 billion over 1 million. Now, Peter is surprised that Mindy is considering the fertility clinic, but she's gonna quote Michelle Kwan's autobiography. "Life doesn't move in steps, it moves in huge leaps." Now, I don't know if Michelle Kwan actually wrote an autobiography, and I don't know if she did write one if this quote is in it, but either way, Peter, hearing this, is inspired. He runs off to the airport for a big romantic gesture with Lauren. Basically, this scene is him trying to convince her to be with him, and she acknowledges that she can't tell him that she doesn't want him to go to Austin with her. But really, the best part of this scene is the fact that she's not even sure she really wants to hear him out because she's so excited to finally be in group one because she's got a kid with her. So she gets to board the plane early. And you know what? I kind of get it. Either way, though, they kiss, so we know it's not over between them, and then she boards the plane. So we cut back to the office, and Mindy is about to approach Danny to talk to him about the fertility clinic stuff, but when she starts, she gets interrupted by Peter running in and saying he's got a huge announcement. He's quitting the practice and moving to Austin. And then he points directly at Mindy saying he has to thank specifically her. Now, Jeremy obviously knows what this means. Peter's chasing Lauren. And Jeremy's like, "How dare you? I should be the one dropping everything and moving to Austin to chase Lauren." But then immediately chickens out when Peter sort of confronts him about it. Like, well, then do it. But that's not even the real strife here. Danny is pissed. How could he leave them? They changed him from an unemployable pervert to an employable pervert. But Peter is not to be dissuaded. He's got to follow his heart. And this inspires Morgan. He's going to leave and follow his heart too. He's going to go get some bubble tea because he's never had it before. But Danny's reaction to Peter convinces Mindy that she really can't leave New York. So she texts Gurgler and says, "Nope, sorry, I can't do it." And what she gets in response is a barrage of texts from Gurgler basically saying, "No!" So then we get a quick cut scene to him and we see that he has quit his job. And I'm like, what a fucking idiot. Have I mentioned that I don't enjoy this guy? But Mindy's gonna throw Peter a going away party, which Jeremy and Danny refuse to go to. And at the party, Mindy's off by herself because she's depressed. Peter's gonna find her and be like, "What's wrong with you?" Anyway, she's sad because she really wanted to do the fertility clinic thing, but seeing Danny take Peter's news so badly that he's not even showing up for the party lets her know that she can't bring it up with him. She's like, "I just always pictured that we'd have our own reality show, us and our 12 daughters, keeping up with the Castellanos and Lahiri." And with that, we're gonna cut to Danny and Jeremy, who are still back at the office. At first, they're talking about how annoyed they are with Peter, but it doesn't take long for it to turn into reminiscing about all the good memories they have with him. And they of course realize that they need to go to the party. So we head back there and Peter's giving a speech, which starts with him alluding to masturbating and ends with what looks like is going to be a heartfelt tribute to Mindy. But it gets interrupted by the fact that Danny and Jeremy show up and he just drops the mic, drops everything because he saw them walk in. So Danny and Jeremy and Peter are going to have their moment, but almost immediately after, Gurgler shows up. And then Gurgler's going to see the sign that says Bon Voyage and make a bunch of assumptions. This, of course, means the beans get spilled about the fertility clinic, and not in the best way. Beverly's going to yell out that San Francisco is the worst, to which everyone agrees heartily, yeah! But then she says, because of all the Chinese. And everybody in the room's like, no. But Mindy wants to defend the city. She says that it's made her a better leader and person. They all start booing her. And then Danny's gonna go up to her and be like, "You two been planning this behind my back?" Oh no, Danny doesn't start talking ethnic unless he's really upset. He's like, "I bought us a house." And I get the sentiment here, but Danny, maybe a major purchase like that should have been discussed and not gifted. Anyway, Danny's gonna leave in a huff, which prompts Peter to say to Gurgler, "Good job, guy from San Francisco. You made Danny leave my party and he just got here." Now the next scene you'd think would be Mindy and Danny talking it out, but it's not. It's Peter going to see Danny at the house that he just bought. Of course, Peter's gonna talk some sense into it. Once again, Peter explaining feelings to Danny. I don't know what Danny's gonna do when Peter leaves, but it brings Danny to talk to Mindy, who wants to apologize to him. And after her apology, she's going to say she thinks she might regret not doing the fertility clinic if she doesn't do it. And Danny's gonna be like, "Look, I've changed a lot because of you. There are so many things that I never thought I would do or like because of you." And that's why he loves her. But this one's just too big a change. That moving to San Francisco would somehow fundamentally change him as a person. Now, I've moved a lot in my life, and I don't think that any move made me a different person, but whatever. But Mindy's gonna be like, "What do we do?" And he's gonna say, I don't know. And that sort of ends there, right? So there's all this now manufactured strife, as we talked about earlier, but we're gonna get to see Peter officially leaving, with the Simon and Garfunkel song playing, "April Come She Will." And it seems like that's the end, but the show's got one more trick up its sleeve. Peter's gonna call Mindy from the cab and give her some crazy news. She's pregnant. And that's how they end the episode. But let's find out how it ranked.
Oh, wait.
So the rankings where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times the episode made me laugh. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score. But before I dive into the rankings, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. But without further ado, the first category is story. And the story is that Mindy has an opportunity to start a fertility clinic across the country. But it seems like it's going to create a choice of career versus boyfriend. And the B story is the conclusion of the love triangle between Peter, Jeremy, and Lauren. The B story felt unsatisfactory, but the A story was good. They both felt a bit rushed to me. I gave them a 3.5. So that brings us to acting, and the acting was good as always, but not as great as it's been. Chris Messina seemed to be going through the motions a bit in this one. Maybe he's tired of all the manufactured strife as well. The guy who plays Gurgler either sucks or the character does, or both. Whatever it is, I don't enjoy him. I thought the airport scene between Peter and Lauren was really forced. It just wasn't everybody's best. I gave it a 3.25. So that brings us to dialogue. Thankfully, this episode brought the Mindy Project back to being really funny. It made me laugh quite a bit and it had several clever moments. That being said, as I said earlier, everything felt a bit rushed in this one, so I gave it a 3.75. And that brings us to episode coherence. As I've already mentioned several times, this episode felt very rushed. We condensed 3 months because clearly the San Francisco storyline wasn't working. Then we get a 72-hour window for a fertility clinic that is suddenly Mindy's dream out of nowhere. Danny loves San Fran and tells Mindy she should explore it. Then suddenly he hates it and he's walking around with a helmet on. All Mindy has seemingly ever wanted is a marriage and a family. She's got that now, but she wants to give it up to stay in San Fran with Gurgler? I just don't buy it. They rekindle the love triangle between Peter, Jeremy, and Lauren, only to abruptly end it the next episode. Also, if 3 months has passed since the previous episode, wouldn't that mean the kiss between Peter and Lauren was 3 months old? So there's no other story there? Just one kiss 3 months ago and he's moving to Austin? Coherence was rough with this one. I gave it a 1.25. So that brings us to character relatability. I can relate to getting excited about things, new ideas. So from that standpoint, I can understand Mindy's excitement about the fertility clinic. If we hadn't gotten to know Mindy Lahiri over the course of the last 3 seasons, that would have been fine. fine. It just doesn't work with her. I can also relate to chasing a girl to Austin. Honestly, as slapped together as this episode was, it was fairly relatable. So I gave it a 4. So not terrible rankings, but not great either, especially with the episode coherence. So it's gonna need a decent laugh counter to stay in the top 3 tiers, and it got me 19 times, so it got that. And that puts the grand total for the episode at a 34.75, which puts it in the I'd watch it again. And as for the series average, it goes to a 36.51, which keeps it in the holy grail. And if you're ranking along with me, drop your scores in the comments. I'd be curious to see where we align. But thanks for listening and or watching. Check out my other Mindy Project episodes on this channel or any of my other sitcom ranking or movie ranking episodes. Remember to comment, subscribe, and like. For up-to-date rankings, check out my website at therankpodcast.com, where you can also email me at john@therankpodcast.com. And if you really want to support the show, you can become a patron at patreon.com/therankpodcast. But I will leave you with this. What did Danny yell when Mindy decided that she was going to start the fertility clinic? Quan!
Dude, I don't get it. I don't get it either.
Well, Mindy is determined to get Danny to like it there.
He is malfunctioning.